I would choose any of this commercial digital game, keeping in mind the curriculum, the most important thing for me. So I will see that curriculum which will be parallel to, I would be able to incorporate into it. And then when I'll be able to incorporate only curriculum, that time I'll see that I would be able to add on various subjects and not only physics.
Since our students are robophilic, they love to do a lot of robotics at work, and we already have students being trained from 11 to 13 years who go for robotics in our school. So they have a hack of the games. So I feel they'll be able to click it. That's the reason we have selected as a cluster game as machineering. And it also deals a lot of concepts, abstract concepts in physics. I think that should work.
Okay, I chose a game based on something that could relate to scientific concepts that I know, like my year 9s are learning at the moment. Otherwise, I think that kind of defeats the object. So I chose machinarium.
So my students, they belong to a class where they're economically not that sound. They cannot afford to purchase the modern day digital games, so that at their houses they can develop their own learning skills. I mean to say that 21st century skills. So if I am supposed to select some digital games, I will select such games which help them to develop 21st century skills, and the first skill that I would put on the ladder is the problem solving skill, and the last one should be to make the substantive decisions. Because my students, as of now, what I have observed, they lack these two skills. They run away from the problems and they are unable to arrive at a solution properly. So if I'm able to choose such a game which helps me to help them develop these two skills, then I hope they will do nicely in their near future, and I hope they can be good citizens of my country and be a boon to the world.
Okay, initially it was a case of trying to make sure we had a game that the kids would find easy to use, that would engage them from the word go, and something which would draw both boys and girls into the game. We have often found that boys find it difficult to engage with science, particularly if it's not something that's very practical, and just saw this as a vehicle to engage the boys a bit more thoroughly in the learning of science principles and so on.
You see, I selected machinarium for inculcating scientific principles into my students' mind, because lot of lot of concepts of physics were there into it, and when I started playing that game, I could relate with all the three branches of science, because there was magnetism, there was electric circuit, there was magnetic effects of electric current, distinction of substances into magnetic and non-magnetic materials. So I thought, and the growing of plants, magnification, there was metallurgy also shown. So I could correlate all the three branches of science like physics, chemistry and biology all together through this game. So this was my basis for selecting this game.
The basis for choosing a game will be one that has scientific content, that develops a range of 21st century skills such as team building, creativity, and also one that allows us to transfer the science content into the learning environment to develop subject knowledge. The fact that it has to be a game that's available commercially and not one that's been created specifically for an educational purpose.
One is that we as teachers have to be comfortable being able to use them. So to navigate through the game and pick the controls and see how we could familiarize ourselves and make progress. And then to see if it applies the science that we are wanting the kids to learn. To see whether the games will allow them a level of progress as they learn to familiarize themselves with the game. And the game also teaches them to work in groups and collaborate with each other. And sometimes it develops a spirit of competitiveness. So each one tries to succeed and reach as many levels as they can in the game. And then there is intergroup competition as well. That enhances their desire to learn that game well and then answer the specific science questions that are posed to them, as to start thinking analytically and see what did they learn from the game that was not just fun or challenging, but was science skills.
The information when I got about BC Unbox project, it was all of a sudden. And when I went through the documents that were provided to me, I could only visualize that I was going to go through some of the digital games, maybe the most common ones that are available in the market. And some way or the other, I'll be playing them and trying to find out something out of it. But after attending the workshop and the briefing, what I feel now and what I have gained now is that the digital games which I thought to be games only are now converted as teaching aids to me as a teacher. So when I say teaching aid, it means that I'm going to use every bit and every part of the game. I'm not referring to the levels only. I refer to each and every scene, and I'm going to correlate. So by these games, I mean that if I'm supposed to take out the bits and parts of the games, each and every scene of the game, then I'll be using each and every scene to be used as a teaching aid for me and to explain some of the scientific concepts, because I deal with triple science, that is chemistry, biology and physics all together, since I'm dealing with the learners from age group 11 to 16. That means every scene has something to offer in science, either it may be from biology, from physics or chemistry. So it is going to be a kind of handy tool for me. At instant I can pick up some scenes, modify the learning aspects and improve the perspectives and present before the students in a classroom, and I think I'll be successful in delivering a lesson using the levels or scenes, whatever we may call, from the digital games or commercial games. That means I'll be motivating my students not only to play the games, but at the same time have something at the back of their mind that they are not only playing, they are dealing with science, and that is something that I want my students to learn. And it is going to be my prime focus in my teaching and learning process now. So the change in, if I want to sum up, before coming here I was a player, and after coming here I'm now a teacher player, using both digital games, playing, entertainment in my teaching strategies. So my strategy is going to change.
My perception of the course before I came was that I felt that finding commercially available games that could be useful for science teaching would be very difficult and quite a challenging process. I also felt that there were likely to be significant differences between science teaching in India and in Britain, and I thought that those might cause issues. I also felt that potentially licensing and costs could be prohibitive with finding commercially available games that were useful. I felt that as a teacher with limited gaming experience that might prove difficult for me to teach students how to use the games effectively, and that the games might prove more of a distraction than a learning tool, because being in a school where all students have iPads, pretty much all they want to do when they get free time is play games. So since coming to the course, I've found that science lessons in India and Britain don't sound too different at all, and that Indian and British teachers can work fantastically well together. So since coming to the course, I found that there are fewer differences than I anticipated between Indian and British science lessons, that teachers from both countries can work together extremely well, and that we've gained a lot more through collaborative work than working individually in our own countries. It took a while, but we found some games that are, I think, perfect for this sort of project, that have extensive science but aren't educational games that explicitly require students to develop their science knowledge. I also think that given the right educational framework, that a significantly bigger range of games could be used for science teaching than I initially anticipated. And I also find that gaming is very enjoyable.
It's changed vastly. I mean, when we initially kind of looked at the paperwork for this, I genuinely thought it was going to be a fairly small project. I thought we were going to be actually working with developers from India or from the UK on the development of games to help children learn through gaming. Through the course I've now discovered that it's a very, very different beast, considerably larger in scope. Certainly it's going to take up a lot more time than I initially believed it was going to. But having said that, I think the choice of games that we've made here over the last couple of days have ensured that we have a project which I can see, I can start with a set of year 8s from a wide variety of backgrounds, from high ability down to my nurture group, and as a result I'm a little bit more positive about the outcomes of this. Still think it's going to need really careful management, and that may be for us the biggest challenge really, is trying to manage the introduction of this. Several of the year 8s we're working with are very ICT savvy, and I have visions that the second I let them loose on this, all they'll do is go straight into shortcuts and things like that. So that's something I'm going to have to kind of manage quite closely.
I belong to a school from Mumbai, that is Gundecha Education Academy. My name is Naina Dave, and our school has set a benchmark for all the schools across India. We have got an accreditation last year from a nationalized body called NABIT, and we have got a rating of 4.75 on 5. So I feel we need to raise the standards. That's the reason why we've come here. And our principal, Mrs. Seema Butch, she is a visionary leader. She loves to be a pioneer in implementing the latest technologies in the education. At the same time, our management is very supportive. So I feel things will work. Let's hope for the best.
Before the project, I was quite worried as to how commercial games could relate to the science that the pupils were learning. I hadn't really thought about them that way myself, so I was also worried how I would sell the idea to colleagues, and especially older colleagues who don't play computer games and see them just as violent and of no educational value. But since the project, on Tuesday we had some group work and actually had a bit of a breakthrough moment where we realised that certain levels you could recreate the science, and actually it was really geared to the year 9 scheme of work we're doing at the moment, so we were quite excited. I can't wait to go back and share it with my colleagues.
It was really big for me, and the idea was like when I came to know through British Council that they are going to start something like teaching science with games. Like I had never played games in my life, and then they said don't worry, like we'll do something. And I also had various questions in my mind. It was lots of doubts, but in a way when I came here in these 7 days they had changed my perception, and I'm really happy for it, because the people what had trying to bring a new idea into teaching, whether might be the old methodologies are not working so good, and we will be able to give a new dimension to the teachers by teaching through commercial games. Already there are many games regarding teaching, but they are all based on curriculums and syllabus only. But if I am able to inculcate a commercial game into it, and I'm very much happy, I will be able to do it.
I've come up with this word, it's an incredulous opportunity, because I wouldn't have ever thought of taking games into the classroom for the level of, I won't say disruption, it would have them engaged, but for what content they would receive or imbibe from it. But having played the games over here myself, I can see there are a lot of skills I've learned. ICT skills, navigating the keyboard, picked up a lot of ICT skills, remembering the keys and recalling where certain objects are hidden and how to retrieve them. And I think this has helped change my perception of using games in the classroom. I think I would definitely trial it, try and calculate a measure of success, because this is where kids would enjoy learning science or any other subject in this manner, using games to help them. So interest is harnessed to them.
Yeah, actually before coming to Bristol, I was just wondering what is it all about, this project Unbox 21. I had a lot of apprehensions that how would I explain the concepts to my head teacher when she will hear that I will have to start my teaching with the games. But after having attended this workshop, 5 days workshop, it is really enhancing and inspiring. Now I could really understand the meaning of inculcating games into my teaching methodology, and now I think I'm pretty confident that I will be able to implement this game into my classroom teaching. And I think by listening the word games, my students will be too eager, and I'm just waiting to see the reaction on their face when they actually hear the word games into the science teaching.